Sorry, sorry. I'm sorry I can't put the background on, but it's not working for some reason. But anyway, hi. I don't know how many of you remember us, but last week we did a session on encryption and integration and maths. And today we are kind of following that same format, but we're doing coding in applied sciences. So we're going to cover a few sciences, a little bit of biology, a little bit of machine learning. It's all very interesting stuff, and we're going to break it down because when I first learned about a lot of this stuff, like we have some things about DNA. I haven't done biology in a very long time, so I had to research for this, but it was really, really interesting. And so I hope that all of you also find it interesting because we did research and we hope we can explain it to you well as and we have some like simulations and visuals to show you. So hopefully that will be fun. Quickly, we can like introduce ourselves very, very quickly because we have a lot to go through. I'm Anshika, and I'll be talking mainly about DNA and a little bit of coding. I taught you encryption last time with my little example about Anya, my friends. Maybe you remember that. I don't know, but I want like the rest of our team to just give us one introduction, and then maybe we'll get some introductions from you guys, maybe on the chat. We'll see.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Ariman. I am the one presenting my screen, and I will be working with Anshika on biology and computer science. If you guys remember me, great. Last time I taught you guys about structural load and integration. Complicated topic, but I hope you guys had fun with that, and I hope we can have fun again. I'll hand it over to the rest of the members to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Shivain. And me along with the other teammate Dherish, who will be joining us shortly, will be showing you all a live demo of coding and some applications of machine learning.
Dherish is also here.
Yes, I've joined now. Thank you, Shivain.
Hi,
Yeah,
Dherish.
I'm very excited to be teaching you guys a topic that I find very interested myself. So let's all have a good time, and I hope that all of you guys can learn something from this.
Hi, I'm Anya. Last time I talked about integration and its application when building structures like bridges. Today I'm gonna teach you about cybersecurity and hopefully help you understand the importance of it, especially when we're on devices so much.
Jaydev's the only one left, so if you could introduce yourself really quick, we can get on.
Sorry, my mouth was on mute. Sorry. So I'm Jaydev. Last time I did the economics part to find the maximum profit we would get in a lemonade stand. And in this presentation, I'll be talking about space biology, mutation in space, and stuff.
Okay, great. So now you know us. So we'll just get on with the content now because there's a lot to go through. Hopefully you guys know a little bit better about us. So yeah, okay. So I'll be starting off. Okay. So our first thing is applying coding and computer science in biology. Can everyone like raise their hands about like have you guys studied like biology? Do you know what DNA is? Could someone raise their hand and just tell me what DNA is? Just it doesn't have to be correct. Just what do you know about DNA? If you ever hear that word, you don't need to give me this full form or anything. Just what do you know about it? Wrong answers are also fine. Okay, yes, Krishna.
DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. It is a master molecule of gene.
Okay, your voice is a little bit low. I think I heard you say the full form. I couldn't hear you after that. Sorry. Could you repeat it just a little bit, maybe louder?
DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. This is the master molecule of living being or gene.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, that's almost basically what I wrote. Thank you. And I didn't even write the full form on my slide, so thank you for informing us about that. Sanjana, would you like to add anything onto our definition?
Yes, DNA is a genetic structure which helps transfer genetic characters from parents to offspring.
Yeah, that's correct. Again, I feel like you guys know a lot more about DNA than me, but hopefully we can help you integrate computer science and coding into it a little bit. So I won't focus too much here then, but basically a general overview of how coding is used in biology is like programming and writing code. It helps us to analyze and understand a lot of different aspects of biology, and DNA is the one we're focusing on. So being able to understand DNA through a computer program, and there's a lot of different applications we can use that in. For example, like forensics, which is like crime scenes and matching like DNA and fingerprints and figuring out who did the crime, or even cancer research and ancestry tests. Ancestry test means like figuring out your distant like grandpa and grandma and like what nationality they are of, and like what like maybe they're 5% Bangladeshi or something. Like little ancestry DNA can help us figure that out. And there's also gene editing, which is another complex topic that we're not really touching on much, but it is very interesting. So DNA is used in a lot of different applications, just analyzing that, and we're going to be learning a little bit about how coding is used to analyze that DNA. Like we know what it is inside our bodies. It's used like as people said, it's used to go from parent to offspring. But how can we analyze DNA and its letters and structures? So next slide. Okay, so we basically already covered this. What is DNA? But for the purpose of our slides, I'll go over it. So DNA builds everything in our body, right? Our eyes, our hair, even how our body's fighting these diseases. But it's very, very long. So if we take it into letters, it can be billions of letters. And here we're taking four bases: A, T, C, G. I won't go too much into like the biology of what these are or what they're used for, but what you need to know is that there's recurring just A, T, C, G again and again for billions of letters. That's how we represent DNA in like a letter format so that we can analyze it. And everyone has different combinations of these letters. So for example, if we take a very small snippet, someone can be ATTCG, someone else can be ATCGC. Okay, so everyone has different DNA, and maybe taking a piece of someone's hair and matching that to another sample of their DNA would bring out the same results, and that's how you can DNA match. And so, like a sequence of DNA is just what I've been saying, the combination is like a sentence, and we can read these sentences or these sequences through computers. There's thousands of letters, and so that's why we don't manually look at a notebook and be like, okay, this and then this and then this. No, instead we get a computer to do that for us, to analyze the different letters and how they go together. Next slide. Okay, so mutations. Okay, I know I'm dumping a lot of information on you guys, but I swear I will show you a very nice little diagram. Hopefully that'll help. It's like the coding aspect will come soon, but first we need to like double down on the biology so that we know what it means. So mutations, I'm guessing some of you already know, but mutations are changes in the sequence of DNA. So for example, if there's ATCG, it becoming ATTG would be a mutation, like a letter changing. And even like a very small change, like I said, a letter changing can cause a very, very big change in the body. And these minor changes are actually like the causes for cancer or resistance to health issues. So there's a lot of things that happen because of this one change. And code, yeah, feel free to ask questions anytime. If I'm like going too fast, tell me. Just let me know anytime. You can raise your hand or you can put it on the chat and I'll see it. Anyway, as I was saying, so yeah, mutations are just a change in your DNA, like a very small change in a letter or like group of letters together. And code helps us analyze those changes, and if we identify them or if we like see them early on, then we can stop it and apply treatments. For example, if a small mutation leads to cancer and our code analyzes, oh, there's a mutation, there's something wrong here, then like doctors can come in and do treatment early on, which can be life-saving in a lot of situations. And so that's why identifying and analyzing DNA and mutations is so important, and that's how coding comes in. Any questions so far before we go on to the next slide? I know a lot of it might not make sense because we haven't connected it to coding completely, but I do have an example very soon. So if any questions are there right now, just raise your hand. Okay, I'm gonna assume everything's okay, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so more terminology. I'm so sorry. We're gonna get into the example. Oh, yes. Hello. Question? Mansi and Tapsi.
Can you please explain again about mutation?
Yeah, okay, sure. So basically, like I said before, if we take a very small part of the letter sequence that I talked about, which is made up of four letters, A, T, C, G. If for example we have five letters, okay, A, T, C, G, G. Okay, that is my DNA. That's a very small part of my DNA. And something happens to me, and this becomes A, T, 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 G. Okay, so you see these two letters have changed, right? That's all a mutation is. Just a change in the letters, change in a very small part of your DNA. These letters are just an example. There's a lot of ways your DNA can change in your body, but the letters are what we use when a computer is analyzing it, when we use like a coding language to analyze the mutation. And so that's why that's what I'm using. And so when you detect this mutation, it can have a lot of different changes in your body. And so a doctor can use that to then apply treatment or tell a person that you should be doing this, we should do this to help reverse anything that's happening because of the mutation. So mutation just means change in DNA in basic terms.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Krishna.
Okay, how the mutation or how why the mutation take place in the genes and what are the processes or symptoms that doctor and I for taking sequence of.
Okay, wait. I think I heard you. Um, so you said why? Okay, I'll get to Sweetie as well. So why mutations take place in our body and what doctors do? Okay, so it depends on a lot of things. A mutation can lead to a lot of different things. As I said, it could lead to cancer or it could lead to like a resistance of health issue. So it doesn't exactly have to be bad. Okay, we'll have to go into a little bit of biology here. So do you guys know about how cells divide, like how cells are created and divided? Yeah. So every time a cell divides, it copies its DNA, right? And so sometimes errors happen. So example, if I'm like typing something on a computer and I accidentally misspell the, it's kind of like that. Again, this is going into very like theoretical biology, and if someone wants to help me, they can. Someone wants to jump in because biology is not my strong suit that much, but mutations can happen with a lot of environmental factors. So that's what happens where it's copying DNA, so there's a misspelling, but it can happen because of a lot of factors. So for example, UV radiation is a huge thing. So if you go out in the sun for so long, for too long, and you don't put on sunscreen, then UVs can harm your cells, and that can lead to a mutation of DNA, and that leads to skin cancer. So that's one of the cause and effects. But there's a lot of different chains, and doctors spend like a huge part of their time just figuring out what change leads to what mutation leads to what like condition. Skin cancer is one of the most like common ones, just because the sun's UV rays are so much, because the ozone layer has been damaged. That's a whole nother thing. But basically, yeah, mutations can happen because of a lot of things and can lead to a lot of different changes. That's why we need computers to analyze that and figure it out, so doctors can treat things quicker and we can be safe. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sweetie, you had a question, or is it like resolved now? Okay, you texted. Okay. How the nucleotides change their pairs? G change? I don't know if that's a typo. Um, what do you mean change their pairs? Oh, um, oh, you're on mute. Okay. Hello?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So, I want to ask how big is change like adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine? These are nucleotides of DNA, right?
Mm-hmm. Sorry,
These-
your voice is. Can you type on the chat maybe?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Wait, I think I understand your question. Are you talking about the ATCG like pairs, nucleotide pairs? Um, what are the precautions for mutation? precautions, like things we should do to like stop the mutations. Well, there's a lot of different reasons for the mutations, like I talked about, like the skin cancer thing. So for that one, you can cover your skin up while going outside, like wear darker, like wear like arm coverings, or you can put on sunscreen. So that helps the UV rays not absorb into your skin and stops the mutations from happening. If that's what you're asking, I feel like that's a different question from the pair thing.
I could just jump in. So one thing about how, so like Anshika was covering cell division. Cells divide as you grow. Now, when you're a baby, you're like one cell or very few amount of cells. As you grow, these cells have to divide to grow your muscles and your tissues and your bones. As you grow, sometimes these cells, they start developing like cancer cells. If you guys know what cancer cells are, they start developing in kind of, I guess you could say, a bad way. So these kind of bad cells, cancer cells, start dividing, and we don't want cancer cells. These hurt us. So as cells divide and multiply, I mean, cancer cells would also divide and they would multiply. And that's how cancer spreads to our bodies. And so because of that, then you can get, sick or ill. Now, for how to protect yourself from these kind of cells and everything, one thing is just general health. Eat healthy foods. Cancer, we don't have just a singular cause of it. It's not just from foods. It's not just from the sun. There are many places where cancer can start from. If you get a cut and it gets infected, cancer can come from there if it's you know really serious. From sun radiations, that's why we put on sunscreen or creams to protect our skin from getting hurt from the strong rays of the sun. Especially nowadays, it's really hot, so it's important to put creams on your face and sunscreen so that your face and skin is protected. So we're going to move on now. You guys had some really good questions, but we don't want to spend too much time on this. If you have any more questions, ask in the chat. I'll respond. We'll have Anshika continue.
Yeah, sure. Next slide. Okay, yeah, this is yeah, okay, so this is just a very brief into what the terminology is. We don't really need to like go into this. Bioinformatics is just the field that we're kind of learning about today. So how coding is used in biology, or how a coding or computers are used to make sense of this biological data. So that's all this is. It's just a huge term to talk about it, and there's a lot of careers in bioinformatics as well. Like you can become a data analyst specifically specializing or specifically going into this field. It's very, very interesting. We're only going into the brief about it, but it's a very huge field, and it can help a lot of people because we can detect diseases that weren't identified before, or we can find treatments for diseases much earlier because we identified, oh, there's this mutation or there's this problem. We can predict different outcomes. So that's what bioinformatics is. It's just terminology. Next slide. Okay, yeah. So I talked a bit about this in the beginning, but an example of like DNA and like analyzing DNA or talking about DNA is like at crime scenes. So, for example, if a crime happened, something happened, and we need to catch the person who did that crime, and there's like a piece of hair, like a strand of hair left on the crime scene, then we can take that, we can get the DNA from it, and we can match it with other DNAs we have in our database in our system. And if the match is there, then maybe we know, okay, that person was on the crime scene, and we can go and question them about it. So that's how we do DNA matching, and it's very, very useful in forensics or crime. That's the technical term for it. And I put a fun fact there. Basically, only 0.1% of DNA differs between humans, but that is enough for a computer to detect, okay, this is what's matching, this is not matching, even though it's a very, very small percentage. So that's why computers are so useful in this, because that's maybe something a human couldn't see, that, oh, there's only one letter differing, there's only one pair differing. But a computer can very easily see that and be like, oh, this is different, oh, this is the same, and let's go catch the culprit of the crime. So that's like an example of how DNA is used. Next slide. So yeah, this is again just what we've been saying. This is it's written down now. It's just a sequence of long letters. So A, T, G, C, C, and it goes on. And it's like a bunch of letters. Like millions and billions of letters, and so that's why humans can't do it, computers do it. And so now let's finally I'll go on to like an actual example instead of just looking at text on a slide. I mean, it is kind of text on a slide still, but let's actually look at the code for how it's written to find patterns and count genes and count. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to be using is Python. You don't need to know Python to be able to understand this. Python is just a coding language. Like if any of you have heard of Scratch, it's kind of like that, but it's more like text-based. Like you have to write things out for it to work, and it has some keywords, but we'll show it all to you. We'll show you the example, and you don't need to know anything about Python to use it. But basically, it's the most popular programming language that's used in biology. Most like real life, like scientists and everyone, they also use Python. So we'll be using it to read a DNA file. This is just a very short sequence, like a sample of the DNA, and we're going to be analyzing it. Next slide. Okay, yeah. So counting DNA bases. So basically, this way we can understand how much of it is A, how much of it is T, C, G. Someone put the full forms in the chat. I didn't want to say these out because I'll probably mess up the pronunciation, but no, I'm not gonna say it. It's in the chat. I'm sorry. If anyone else wants to pronounce it for me, that would be great. But basically, they're like compounds in our body, and that's what DNA is made of. And so, using a computer, we can understand how much of it is A, how much of it is G, and based on that, we can identify genes and mutations, like by seeing their balance. And so, you see this code sequence equals, that's just our sequence, very simply written in quotation marks, and then we print means the computer will give it to us. That's what print means, just writing it out. And so sequence.count is, it's going to count it for us. Again, just very straightforward, simple code. It's going to count the amount of A's in this sequence, in this row. It's going to come on the count the amount of T's, C, G, and it will output it for us. Next slide. Arman, are you taking over this slide?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so mutation detection. If a base is missing or extra, it's a mutation. We've covered this. So let's say if we go to the previous example, where we have this long sequence. Now, sequences like these DNA genomes are generally really, really long, like 3 billion letters. This is just a short sample that we're showing because we can't type out 3 billion letters. Now, a mutation would be, like Anshika also explained, if this G were to switch to an A. So that's a mutation. Or if an A was to be added at the end, there's an extra letter, or a letter is switched out. That's a mutation. And like I also mentioned before, mutations cause diseases. They cause things like cancer cells to arise, and coding can help doctors find these in a patient's DNA. So when we have such big sequences with millions of letters, it becomes hard for humans to look at each and every letter and compare it. So let's say if an individual their DNA had some mutation, to find the single letter or 2 letters out of 3 billion that have changed or that have been added, it's really difficult and it takes a lot of time. We'll look at some examples later to show how computers actually made it much more easier. For example, with COVID. And so here's a demo to detect a mutation. So we compared 2 DNA samples. This is the original one, and this is the changed one. And so we make a loop so that the computer can check each and every position, each and every letter, and see where the difference is. Here we can spot one difference ourselves. Now, of course, it's easy because these are just a couple letters, but once it becomes 3 billion, it becomes really difficult to actually spot these small differences, especially when it's reoccurring letters. So this is what the computer does, and it will output, it'll say the difference at position, whatever the position is, and then it will tell us that there is a difference, and instead of G at this position, there's an A. Any questions so far? I know it's quite complex. If you have any questions, please do ask. I'm happy to answer. Okay, I'll move on then. If you do have any questions, raise your hand. Okay. So here's an example. Scientists use similar programs and sequence COVID-19's genome in days. So if you guys have studied in history with the flu and different diseases in the past, it took years, if maybe like decades, to actually find where the disease originated from and how they can create a medicine for it or a vaccine for it. With COVID, because they use computers, they were able to identify similar sequences. So let's say AAAA is similar to the cold. So they were able to identify that COVID has some symptoms of a cold, let's say a fever. From this, they also identified that COVID came from bats, and it was a disease that was that's present in bats. So that's how we got to know all of this within a month. If you guys remember back in quarantine and COVID time, we got to know that it came from bats within the same year. So that's how computers can help us. Without all of this, without bioinformatics, scientists would have had to look through over 3 billion letters and compare each letter one by one to known diseases to try to identify where it came from, which means it could have taken years for the vaccine to come out. And we know how dangerous COVID was. Any more questions?
Ariman, I think there's a question in the chat. What is
Okay.
what is I stand here in code, please? I think she's referring to the coding part. Is it okay if I?
Okay. Yeah, if you want to answer, yeah, sure. Thank you.
So sometimes when we're working with loops, can you go back to the code slide, please? We want to keep a track of which iteration of the loop it is that we're running in. Here, the I stands for the iteration number. So it starts with the iteration 0, then goes on to 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So I just stands for iteration. I hope that clarifies your doubt, Krishna and Rajveer.
I is just the amount of times the loop happens. So for
Okay, that's
I
given
is
up.
just a variable for the range, because we want it to loop just these many times. If we make it loop 3 billion times, even though there are only these many letters, it'll take a long time for the computer to give us an output, a longer time, maybe 10 seconds instead of 5. But we want things to be quicker. So for that reason, we have it in range from I or 0 to the sequence, like the end of the sequence letter number. Okay, great. Thank you for the question. Here's an activity. I want you guys to try it yourselves. You are a DNA detective. The mystery sequence is from a living organism. Compare it with 3 known DNA sequences. So of course, these are shortened, but and it's just an example. So we want you to find which organism. Do you have a question, sweetie? I guess not. Okay. Which organism is it most similar to, and what differences did you notice between the sequences? So here's the mystery. We don't know which organism or who has this DNA sequence, and these are the ones we know. So of a chimpanzee or a monkey, this is a sequence, frog, and human. We want you to compare this sequence with these 3 and find out which one it matches. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that. You can give your answers in the chat, and we'll look at the answer in a few minutes. Yes, Sage, you have a question?
I wanted to answer, please.
Okay, yeah. Could you answer in the chat?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, it looks like a lot of you guys have gotten the answer. No worries if you got it wrong. It's fine. This is all new, so I understand. It took me quite a while to actually understand this problem myself. But yeah, the answer is a human. Now, why is that the case? So here's the mystery DNA, and here's a human. If we look at each letter, A, T, T, G, G, C, T, A, C, G, G, A, T, T, C, G. It matches entirely, meaning it's of a human. However, if you look at chimpanzee, there's an A here. And I think instead of an A, it's a G. Yeah, here it's a G, but they've put in, it's an A here for the monkey, meaning it is not a monkey because there's a change. There's a difference between the 2 DNAs. And yes, in DNA, even a small change like this could differ in terms of for an organism or a person. And then here, same thing with the frog. There's a G here instead of a C, A here instead of a G. I hope that makes sense to all of you guys. All right, great. Now I believe Jaydev, he'll be handling space biology.
So I'll be talking about space biology and how mutations happen in space. So let's start talking about our human immune system. So, which is our human immune system is directly controlled by our DNA. So the immune system is the body's defense system. So it actually it helps us fight against viruses, bacteria, and anything harmful. So in the immune system, we have two key parts of the immune system. One is the white blood cell. You can take white blood cells as like soldiers of your body. They patrol your bloodstream and look for invaders like bacteria and viruses that do not belong to your body, that cause harms to your organs. So one kind of white blood cell is the T cell. So this cell directly attacks on infected cells or helps other cells respond properly. But in space, there's microgravity, which means there's very little gravity. So everything there floats, and this has a really strange effect in our body. And the T cells and the other white blood cells can become less effective because of the microgravity, and they do not move or respond like the way they do in the Earth. So this makes astronauts more vulnerable to infections, even from germs that they don't get normally, make people sick. And another important part of the human system is cytokines. So these are small proteins that help immune cells to talk to each other. But in space, the communication gets messed up, which leads to confused or weak immune responses. So anyone has doubts in this slide? Okay, great. Arya. Okay. So let's talk about DNA damage. So let's focus on what affects our DNA. So it is the genetic code that controls everything in our body and how we fight against diseases. So on Earth, we are protected from harmful space radiation by the atmosphere. But in space, the astronauts are exposed to many kinds of radiations, like cosmic radiation, which is really bad, and other forms of high energy particles. So this radiation can damage their DNA by breaking them apart, like in strands. So just like snapping a zipper in half. So this can lead to mutation or changes in genetic code, and most of the some mutations are harmless, but others can cause serious problems like cancer, cell malfunction, or premature aging. Normally, our body can repair DNA damage, but in space, due to microgravity, this repair process slows down. This means our body takes longer to fix the broken DNA, which increases the health risk. Yeah. Next slide. So as I said in the example in the last slide about premature aging, NASA has actually conducted a study about this. So they studied identical twins. So astronaut Scott Kelly, who spent year one in space, and his twin Mark Kelly. So Scott is the one on the left, and Mark is the one on the left. So these two people stayed on Earth. So Mark Kelly stayed on Earth, and since they were genetically same, they were twins. So the scientists could easily compare what changed in Scott's body when he went for a space travel. So the results were quite surprising. Over 7% of Scott's gene expression has changed. This means that uh, some genes were turned on or off differently because of space. So a few of those changes stayed permanent for Scott, and his immune system reacted too much. It caused inflammation, and stress-related genes became more active. So scientists also study telomeres, which is protective caps at the end of the chromosome. Like you can imagine of plastic tips in your shoelaces, if you can imagine that. So in space, Scott's telomeres grew longer, which was unexpected. But when he came back to Earth, it reversed and it shortened quickly. So, which could be a sign of aging or stress. That's what the NASA said. And this provides one big idea. Space travel changes how genes behave. It affects both our physical health and how the bodies fight diseases. And yeah, so I'm going to ask some questions. Those are not in this guide. So, if white blood cells became weaker in space, what might happen if an astronaut gets a simple infection? I can put that in the chat box.
If anyone didn't like understand the question or any of the content, they can just
If
raise
you
their
want me
hand.
to, if you want me to repeat, I can. Did anyone hear the question? Okay, I'll repeat the question.
Yes. Can you please repeat?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. If white blood cells become weaker in space, what might happen if an astronaut gets a simple infection, like a fever or something? Uh, yeah. Which part didn't you understand, Abdul? Okay, I'll put the question in the
Abdul,
chat
can
box.
you unmute and say what are you not understanding?
दीदी क्वेश्चन बट आप समझ में आए
Could you
Okay, very
repeat?
good. तो आपको आंसर देना ट्राई करना.
Yeah.
नो दीदी ट्राई कर रहा हूं, पर हो नहीं रहे
Okay, I'll type the question in the chat box.
Kushagra, do you have a doubt?
No, I would like to answer the question, please. Like you said that if the white blood cell doesn't work in the space and
Kushagra, your
we
voice is a bit
get
muffled.
the infection, so it might get.
Your voice is getting a little
Oh,
bit muffled. Yeah.
am I audible, please?
Yeah.
Am I audible, please, now? Hello. So I
Yeah.
was trying to say that uh, if the if the white blood cell doesn't work and he get infected, so I think in space it can be get more worse and he could not survive. I think so.
Yeah.
Uh,
So as I said, white blood cells, due to microgravity, the process like fully slowed down. Like even a common cold or a minor cut could become much more dangerous than on Earth because of the weakened immune response. The movement of the white blood cells are really slow, and they don't attack on germs effectively. So the infection spread faster than the white blood cells try to help control it. Yeah. Yeah, my part is over, and next part, I guess it's
Okay.
about machine learning. Yeah.
Anyone else has any other questions, queries? Anything that you have not understood so far, please ask your questions and only then we can move ahead.
Wanted to ask a question.
Yes,
Yeah.
Danish.
I just wanted to ask, like, for example, the astronauts who are there in the space, they were facing mutational genetic changes. So, will this be carry on to their generation, like their offspring, to their children, or to their generations and all?
Well, as Anshika said, some mutations are permanent, but some other mutations, like really simple ones, as I said, cytokine. So those are simple mutations. Those can be reversed easily, and yeah, as when Scott returned back to Earth, the mutation was reversed, and yeah, it got back to normal, so it won't be passed on to his generations.
So, can we say that the mutation is led because of environment or because of his life cycle, his daily
Yeah.
routine, which was there in the space?
No. So the mutations are mainly caused by radiations or chemicals. So in space, you would have high number of cosmic rays from other space or other elements in space. It would cause a lot of cosmic radiation. So when these like penetrate your body, they cause mutation in your DNA. And most of them that are caused by cosmic radiation are not at all curable, and yes, it'll be passed down your generations.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tapsi and Mansi.
Yeah, Tapsi.
Can you please explain that answer once again? I don't understand that.
All right. So as in the first slide, I said the white blood cells are the main part of controlling your body's immune system. So they patrol your bloodstream and check whether they have viruses or bacteria that do not belong to your body, right? But in space, because of microgravity, things are really slowed down. Like um, everything is slow. We don't have gravity in space. So what happens is that the white blood cells, they do not move very fast in space. So they do not react to the conditions. They do not react to for example, let's say you have a minor cut in your finger, and they might detect it, but then the response time is really long, and this minor cut can attract more germs or bacteria that might cause a more serious infection. So, if, as I saw, as a question asked, why if white blood cells can control become weaker in space, what happens if an astronaut gets a simple infection? Yes, it'll get worse. Yeah. Does that clarify your doubt?
Oh. Yes, please.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We are going on to the next bit of the topic. So if you have any doubts regarding anything that you have done so far, you can ask now. We'll wait for a minute and then we'll move ahead. Okay, great. I think we don't have any doubts. I think everyone has understood everything, and I'm happy to see that. But since even if you have further doubts later, please feel free to ask our chat box. Okay, moving ahead. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, thank you, Jadev. So, guys, now what we'll do is we'll learn about machine learning. So, machine learning is a very interesting thing because most of the times when people think of machines, it's more like, okay, you've been given one job to do, and you'll do that job based on the code that's been written for you. But this is kind of different. So, the way I think of it is imagine you're teaching like your dog a new trick. You won't write a code into its brain, but you'll like give it a job to do. You'll give it an example of how you should do it. And if they do it correctly, you give them like a treat. So if you tell a dog to sit, it might not sit at first, but you'll show it what it has to do. You'll say it multiple times again. And if it actually sits, you'll reward it. So, what machine learning is, what we do for dogs, it does it for computers. And instead of giving them treats, you just give them data. So, what happens in machine learning is we keep on giving them lots and lots of information, and they take in this information and then they use it to understand the information in a better and easier way. So everyone here must have a mobile phone, and everyone must know, like, if you put the mobile phone and you open it and then you use the face recognizing software, it opens the phone automatically, right, guys? So this is basically that. But what it does is it takes a look at your face, it looks at all of these images, and it makes sure that this is your face. After it does that, it saves that data towards its in its software, And every time you put your face in the future, it continues looking, it continues and it opens it. So, one of the most important examples of this is the famous iris flower dataset. Aryaman, if you could move on towards the next slide. Yes. So, guys, this is the most famous example of the machine learning whole idea as a whole. So, what this whole set is basically 150 real iris flowers have been collected by a biologist called Ronald Fisher back in 1936, before we even got independence. So there are three different kinds of iris flowers which are given here: Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, and Iris virginica. They look very similar, right? But the thing is, they've got one small difference. So for each of all of these 150 flowers that were collected, scientists measured four things: the sepal length, the sepal width, the petal length, and the petal width. The sepal is the small green things that are below the flowers. So in order to show you guys what this is in more detail, Shivain will continue forward from now on. But if anyone has any doubt in what I've said so far, can anyone just ask their question in chat or raise their hands, and then maybe we can actually continue with that? Yes, Danish?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, can you just explain me again the connection of this flower with the machine learning?
Okay, so what I told you earlier was that it takes a look at a bunch of photos, machine learning, right? And then after taking a look at these photos, it saves that information. Now, I haven't yet explained the connection, but what happens is there are these 150 flowers, right? And you measure the petal length, the petal width, like you see how big the petals are or how long they are, as well as the sepal length and sepal width. So once you measure that, you can figure out like the sub species of that iris flower, which are Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, and Iris virginica. So once you measure that, you can just show the machine another photo of an iris flower, and looking at the sepal length, the sepal width, the petal length, and the petal width, it will tell you whether it's Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, or Iris virginica. If I want to give you guys a simple example, if you see me, Aryaman, and Shivain all own one phone, but only Shivain can actually use the opening face software. So the thing is, it takes photos of all of us, but it's only Shivain's face that can unlock it because of, say, how long his face is or how long it is, or like based on his facial features, right? Like how these plants have length of petals and width of sepal. He's got different facial features compared to me and Aryaman. So the machine looks at it, he says, yes, this is Shivain's face, and then he opens it. That's basically how this iris flower data set works. I hope this clears your doubt.
Yeah, it's totally clear.
Okay,
Now.
thank you. Is there anything else? No? All right. Thank you so much, guys. Shivain?
Okay, so we're super low on time, so I'll be very quick about this. But first of all, in order to understand this, let's go back to graph theory. You remember that when you studied graphs, you had x and y. X is the independent variable, and when there's a function, you have the x value, which is the input, and then the y value, which is the output. And y here is the dependent variable, x is the independent variable. Well, you can have more than just one independent variable. Like let's say the property value, the price of land of a piece of land. You could maybe say that the closer it is to the city center, then the higher the value will be. But then you could also consider the things like the facilities around it, the roads, the highways, etc. What about customer satisfaction? Maybe the more comfortable the seats are, the better the customer satisfaction. Well, that's one independent variable, and it's easy for a human to think about it in that ways. But you could also have things like the food that's served, uh, the internet, sorry, the in-flight entertainment, the food, the time, the delay, and all that. And that brings it up to many different dimensions of independent variables, all down to one single variable, the dependent variable, which is whether the customer is satisfied or not satisfied. In this example over here, scientists, you could think that maybe a flower, you could look at a flower and its color and tell, okay, yellow means sunflower. But what if you don't want to look at just one feature of a flower? You want to define what kind of a flower it is based on things like the length of the petal, the length of the sepal, the length and the width of the sepal and the petal. Well, in that case, you can't do that yourself. You'll have to use some sort of computer algorithm. You could technically, but it would take you very long. For that, we can use some sort of computer algorithm. And Armin, could you please stop presenting the screen? I'll just present a little machine learning algorithm that I've made here. Using so in addition to what Anshika showed you, you can also use Python for things like game development and AI/ML. Over here, you can see that I've added the iris data set, and the iris, I'm using a library called sklearn. You can learn more about it from scikit-learn. It's a Python library. It's very amazing. And I do a bunch of processing over here. And you can see that the accuracy, that even though I've given it only 20% of the test, oh, sorry, only I've given it only 80% of the data. It can look at the 20% of the rest 20% of the data. And with 97% accuracy, it can tell me that it can give me the correct classification of the flower. I hope that makes sense. Are there any questions about this?
I just wanted to ask one thing.
Yeah.
As far as I know, we use scikit library for many things. Like, can you tell us more about this library?
So one of the things that I've used for Scikit here is for machine learning and AI/ML. You can learn more about what Scikit can be used for on their website, and they have lots of different things. What I've done here is classification, which is you decide the class, iris, the type of flower. You can also use regression, where you try to predict the values of it, and you can also use clustering, where you don't give any classes and you ask it to put certain data sets into their own class based on the data given. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. And with that, I will be handing over to Anya for cybersecurity.
Um, can I see the screen? Yeah. Hi everyone. Today let's talk about something that affects all of us, cybersecurity. In simple terms, cybersecurity is about protecting our digital world, our phones, computers, data, and online accounts from being accessed or damaged by hackers or viruses. It's like having a lock on your personal information, your photos, passwords, or school records, anything you wouldn't want someone else messing with. It's like putting like a metaphorical lock on your digital life. Can I see the next screen? Why is cybersecurity important? So why does this matter? Well, think about how much of your life is online. If someone hacks into your social media or email, it's not just embarrassing, it can be dangerous. Cybersecurity protects your identity, money, and privacy. Even big companies and governments rely on it to stop cyber attacks that could shut down hospitals, steal money, or leak private data. It can lead to a lot of things like identity theft, financial loss, and a lot of other things. Can I see the next slide? Let's talk about some real life examples, like phishing. Phishing is when someone sends a fake email or message to trick you into giving away a password. Then there's malware, like viruses that can crash your device. Some hackers use ransomware. They lock your files and ask you to pay to get them back. And all of these things are real, and they happen way more often than you think. Can I see the next slide? Now, how can you stay safe? There's a lot of things you can do. You can use strong passwords. Don't use passwords like 123456 or using the word password as password. We shouldn't click on any shady links or pop-ups. We should keep our apps and software up to date. And also, we should think before we post or take anything on our phones, because once we post something, it is never leaving the internet. Cybersecurity is not just for decades, it's something we all need to practice. The internet can be good as long as you stay safe on it.
Okay, thank you guys. If you have any questions on any topic, please do ask us either in the chat box or unmute, raise your hand, and then we'll call on you, and then you can ask your question.
Krishna and Rajveer, do you want to repeat your question by unmuting yourself? The one that you have put up on chat box?
Yes, please. So my question was, what do we feed on Python programming to detect the flower? In last slide, there was some coding. How its accuracy come?
Okay, so Krishna and Rajveer basically. Wait, was that question asked by Krishna or Rajveer?
Yeah, Krishna, please.
So basically what we did there was we took 80% of the data and fed it into the model for training. And we said based on this, recognize the patterns and recognize what sort of values will give you versicolor, virginica, and the third class. So, and then we took the rest 20% of the data that we hadn't fed the model yet, and we told the model here and tell us which type of flower these values are. So we fed it in the sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width of the flower that we'd measured, and then we asked it to tell us hey, these are the values. Now tell us which class of flower this is. And because we had so many data values, we could confirm that okay, these this value is right, this value is wrong, because we know the class. We're just asking the AI to predict, the machine learning model to predict the class. And one more important thing, the reason that we can't put the original values, the ones that were used for training the model, into the for the prediction is because it already knows the class of that flower. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, Baya, thank you.
No problem.
Any more questions on any topic? Okay, then I guess everybody understood everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. We covered a lot of interesting topics. I hope you guys learned something from what we have presented. I know everything was complicated. Hopefully you guys asked some really good questions. So hopefully all your doubts are clear. Thank you for joining us. It was really fun doing this and teaching you guys about these topics. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
y'all for
everyone.
everything y'all do for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for spending 1 hour of your time with us. We really appreciate it. And we hope that everyone has learned something or the other from this class.
Somebody answer Bhaiya. He said something.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, yes, please, and thank you. Those are the right answers. Yes, we did. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
We'll take a leave now. Thank you.
Gina will hang out.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Tapsi, you there?
TFG Changemakers, you guys can leave the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tapsi.
Yes, ma'am.
Acha. Tapsi, can you help me understand why in space the genes mutate? No, question समझ में नहीं आया?
Yes.
Acha. Mansi, can you help me understand why in space the genes mutate?
Because there is slow gravity, please.
So
There is
what does the low gravity impact? I can't see your hands. Y'all will have to give me 30 seconds to pull into the parking spot. So that's why I'm calling different names. Give me 30 seconds and I'll be able to see your hands, okay? Mansi, what does low gravity impact? Okay, no problem. Kushagra, what does low gravity impact?
Uh, I know that the bhaiya said the word, please. Just rewinding. Uh,
Okay. Sejal, do you remember? Or Rukmani, do you remember? What does low gravity impact?
Yes, please. It impacts
Matlab no. Huh? What does it impact, beta?
immune system, and also it impacts the white blood cells. And there were other two cells which I could see on the graph. It was B cell and T cell, and the youth changemaker also talked about a nutritional element that is known as cytokine. So it also plays some role in this.
Okay, but very good. So let's go with white blood cell. Okay, now I can see hands. Let's go with white blood cells. So what does the white blood cell take care of in a human body? No idea? Acha, I see Sejal, I see Rukmini. Rukmini, what does a white blood cell take care of in a human body?
It like if we had inflammation, so it covers the outside portion of the body.
Yes, it takes care of the immunity. It takes
Yes.
care अगर बाहर से कुछ illness आता है, so it takes care of that. It helps you fight an infection. Okay, that's what it takes care of in the. All right. So again, I ask, so when that gravity is impacting the white blood cells, somewhere along the line, it affects the mutation. It creates a mutation. What does the word mutation mean, Shamna?
It means changes in
Yes,
DNA.
correct. It means a change. Mutation means a change. Well done. So there's a mutation in the gene, correct? What else did they talk about today? They talked about cybersecurity, which you know about. Were there any questions left over from today that you thought they didn't answer that you still have a question about? Matlab, you all are experts on everything they taught today, right? Okay. I'm scrolling to see questions hai ki nahi. Okay. So we're good then? Great. If we're good, then I'll see you next week. I'll see you on Wednesday. Can you all hear me? You all are frozen on my screen. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, please.
Krishna said you did not understand code. You mean the DNA code, or you mean you're still talking about the flowers and how the flower is recognized by the machine? Krishna? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so
I didn't.
Krishna, those are things, those are languages, different coding languages, and you will, as you learn, you need to learn that. जैसे कि मुझे हिंदी सीखना है, so I have to learn that language before I can communicate in it, right? Similarly, if you need to learn English, or sorry, if you need to understand what I'm saying right now, you will need to learn English. So they may have explained some complicated way, but they were speaking in a language that is used to code. So it's important to know that computers and data and programming also have languages. They don't speak in English or Hindi. They have codes. They have languages written into them that can translate what that code is saying, and then they can do whatever they need to do after that. Does that help you, Krishna?
Yes,
Yes?
ma'am. I understood
Okay,
it.
lovely.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Perfect. In the absence of questions, we will see you next Wednesday. Love you. Have a great weekend. Bye. See you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Bye.
ma'am. Bye.
Same to you.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am.
Ma'am, thank you.